explanation.
So here's the
for
tough
original
question.
universe.
Because I've had family members who've renounced their faith over the Holocaust, for example.
Right.
How could a fair, just God allow that to happen? When you look at what's happened in Israel and then Gaza in the last 6 months, a lot of people might question, well, why would a God that has the universal creative superpower of the kind that you believe God had to create all this, why would they allow such misery and hell to also exist on
Tragic
in this
messes
life?
of the kind you just described.
Have you thought about that?
Well, of course. There's a traditional theistic answer, goes back to St. Augustine and maybe earlier, the idea of sometimes called the free will defense if you're in an argument about the so-called problem of evil. I actually find it persuasive and compelling. And it's the idea that God created us as free moral agents and understood in creating us that way that he was taking a risk, that we could use our agency for good or for ill. We could use it to love him and to love the other creatures he's made, or we could use it to aggrandize ourselves. And we have instances of both on this planet. And the people will say, well, why would God do that? Well, I think the answer is that God understood that creating agents with free will opened the possibility of evil, but it also opened the possibility of genuine love. If he had created mere robots, we wouldn't really be persons. We wouldn't have the quality of life that is possible to us. So it's, in a sense, it's an evidence of a divine risk. But it was a risk that I think he deemed worth taking, and ultimately, in the Christian tradition, which you and I share, there's a plan for sorting all that out at the end. Redemption.
Dr. Myers there in that clip brings up some very good points. These are called Theodicies. In this case, they are speculative guesses as to why God allows evil to occur. The ones he presented have a lot of merit, but at the end of the day, they're just speculations. We can never actually know why God allowed evil to occur or exist in this world. However, there was a point there that Dr. Myers didn't touch on that I think is even more important. The example there that they brought up was the Holocaust. It comes up often when talking about evil. But the fact that we can all look at this and have unanimous agreement that this was an evil act is actually evidence for God.
What?
It's probably best summed up by the C.S. Lewis quote, "A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. What was I comparing this universe with when I called it unjust?" Let me highlight this by asking you a question. If your neighbor put up a speed limit sign in front of his house, and one day you just happened to notice that you were driving by the sign at a faster speed than the one he had posted, would you be breaking the law? No, of course not. However, what if this was an actual speed limit sign set up by your municipality and you happen to be going faster than the posted limit? Would you be breaking the law then? Well, yes, actually in that case you would be breaking the law. So what's the difference? Your neighbor has no governing authority to set those types of laws. Meanwhile, your municipality does. Simply put, laws need to have lawgivers. So why is it that we all know some kind of deep moral law has been broken when we look at the events of the Holocaust? It's likely because that's a violation of things that are deemed to be wrong, put in place by an entity who created moral laws to begin with. Atheism does not account for moral laws or for the ability to deem something right or wrong. Prominent atheists have admitted this countless times. Dawkins has said this: "In a universe of electrons and selfish genes, blind physical forces, and genetic replication, some people are going to get hurt, other people are going to get lucky, and you won't find any rhyme or reason in it, nor any justice. The universe that we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, no evil, no good. Nothing but pitiless indifference." So let me ask you another question. Were the events of the Holocaust evil because of how you or other people might feel about it? Or was it evil because justifiably the actions of it were atrocious and horrendous, no matter how somebody might feel about them. I would argue that any rational person would say that the actions of the Holocaust were evil, no matter how somebody might feel about it. Atheism and evolution can only account for the way people feel about certain things. They don't render judgments on the actual actions themselves. Yet we all know an evil action when we see it, even if there's the odd person out who doesn't agree that that was evil. Why is that? The fact that the Holocaust was atrocious and that we can all agree that it was atrocious is evidence that we're appealing to something outside of ourselves, not something that's developed from within, from atheism or evolution. We are not just saying it's evil and that's how we feel about it when we look at the Holocaust. We're saying that is justifiably evil because of the actions taken. The fact that we are all paying recognition to a moral law, an agreement outside of ourselves that we all concur with, is evidence that there's a moral law giver. So the burden of proof is actually on the atheist to explain why something is evil without borrowing terms from theism. That's a tall task, and one that I've never seen atheism live up to.